We're all talking about the problem, but let's talk about the solution. How can we fix these Gen 7 cars? And one Cup Series driver offered some insight on potential solutions this week. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, where we talk about NASCAR all the time. And the big talking point after this past weekend at Bristol was the Gen 7 car sucks. just blatantly, it's not awesome, and we all know this, but we're all talking about the problem. This car sucks. We need more horsepower, etc. But what other solutions are out there? And I got this comment on my TikTok page that really just funneled into this entire video right here, and that comment was, quote, "I don't blame Goodyear. I blame NASCAR and this car. When the racing is better in Xfinity and truck, it's a problem." First off, I agree. When the product is better in your B and C tiered series and your A tier is struggling, that's not good. That is not a good thing at all. But I do also agree. I don't like to play the blame game. I think that is a dangerous road to go down, but I would say that Goodyear has been great in partnering with the teams and NASCAR to try to find a band-aid to the actual problem, which is this car. That said, we want to see the car fixed, but what are the potential solutions? And we actually got some really good insight from a certain driver on a certain podcast this week about the potential solutions they see working for this car, as well as when they realized this car was not going to favor these teams. Listen, I know you all don't really like Denny Hamlin. I hope a lot of you are coming around to him because he has a lot of great insight to offer, especially on his show Actions Detrimental, and this week was no different. So I want to talk through some of the highlights of this episode and where I think as fans of the sport, we can all benefit from hearing what he had to say. So starting off with the very first team owners meeting he was part of. Denny said he asked, "Hey, is this car, which is supposed to be kind of this all-in-one car, is it good to go at all different types of racetracks?" And the answer he got was yes. So he trusted the process. However, it wasn't until like 2 months before the Gen 7 car was supposed to debut in its very first NASCAR race of the season that the teams realized they were in some big trouble. Take a listen.
What's the most race cars they had on a track when testing the next gen?
Not that many. We didn't actually have multiple cars on the racetrack testing this car until 2 months before the very first race. And at that moment is when we all realized, holy shit, you cannot pass. It was really, really bad.
So that's pretty wild, understanding that yes, there were some hiccups in getting this car developed because of COVID, but still, pretty wild. What's also wild is that NASCAR was wanting to run these cars with 500 horsepower. Like, that in any world is insane. Luckily, these teams were able to talk NASCAR up to 670, but we still know that's not enough. I talked about this in the latest episode of Above the Yellow Line, but I don't really want to go down the horsepower conversation all over again. Yes, it's a potential solution that we all know about, but I want to move a little past that in this video. Here's the thing. We know these teams can fix this car. They don't hire geniuses at Hendrick Motorsports and Jacobs Racing for nothing, right? We know that they have the power and the smarts to fix the car. The issue is NASCAR needs to let them, but more so, we need to have a constructive discussion between all parties about how we can make this car better. Not band-aid the problem, but actually fix the car. And Denny Hamlin said he has about 6 solutions that he's thinking of in ways that we can make the car better. Now, he didn't go into all 6, but there are a few that he kind of talked about at a high level in this episode of Actions Detrimental. One has to do with the front end of the car. Now, the front of the Gen 7 car is lifted. It's to kind of feed aerodynamically the back end of the car to support some rear downforce. However, because of that, when you get behind another car on track, the front just lifts more, and then you can't do anything. You're plowing. So, okay, if that's the problem, then just put the front end of the car down a little bit more and call it good. I mean, that's what we see in the Xfinity series, where those cars have fantastic front downforce. And Hamlin talked about this, where in the Xfinity series, you can manipulate the leader if you are the person in the second position, which is something we don't have in the Cup Series right now. The second place driver in Xfinity can get behind that driver in first, disrupt their rear end downforce, have them wiggle a little bit, get loose, and then get around them. Again, we do not have that in the Cup Series. So why can't that be the solution for these Gen 7 cars? Well, what NASCAR and these teams have found is that when you do that to the Gen 7 car, the person that has clean air is not going to have any stability in the rear of the car. You're going to have no rear downforce. It's going to be loose and uncontrollable. However, they noticed that it made passing and racing in the mid-pack way better. Now, of course, any change to this car is going to incur a cost for these teams, and Jared Allen, the co-host of Actions Detrimental, posed the question, will these changes pose a significant burden to the teams? And to Denny Hamlin, it was a yes and no answer. And he actually answered the question with another question. He said, quote, do the teams deserve to have the financial burden from the mistakes NASCAR made on this car? He went on to say, no, we don't deserve it, quote, but at some point we all have to come together and say how we can all pitch in to make this better, NASCAR included. But here's the thing. We can't sustain the product that we had on Sunday. We cannot have that going forward because it's detrimental to the sport. You look at what happens with tracks like Richmond, for instance, where the product just isn't good. It wasn't good in the spring. Butts didn't fill seats, which means you're not selling tickets, which means NASCAR is going to see that and say, not bringing us anything, not really bringing the track anything, let's axe a date from the schedule. I do not want Bristol, which is one of my personal favorite tracks on the schedule, to get the same treatment, but the product has sucked the past few years. The other solutions we have are moving the dates around on the schedule. People were saying, hey, if we move Bristol to a potentially colder time of year, will that produce an exciting race? I guess that's an easier solution, but as a fan, do you want to be sitting in like 30-degree weather in the stands, freezing cold, watching a race? I don't know if I want to do that. You also have the solution of giving tracks the Atlanta treatment, making them super speedway stylized. And I don't think changing these tracks when we could change the car to make the product better is the solution, because the product that we see for the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series at Bristol is actually pretty good. Is it great? No, but it's way better than Cup, so I don't want us changing a track just to benefit one series if it's going to hurt many more. But going back to ticket sales and things like that, I also don't want to get to the point where we're doing what we did a few years ago when we were introducing the Gen 7 car and the mile-and-a-half product just sucked. So we said, let's add some more road courses to the schedule because those are the tracks where this car performed really well with the Gen 6 and we love the racing. We did that, then we introduced the Gen 7 car and realized the road course racing with the Gen 7 sucks. So then we kind of reversed course. So then we run into the issue of plugging and playing tracks in that work with this car better. And to me, that's also not a feasible solution either. I don't think that's a solution where all parties win. Outside of the car, I did want to bring this up too. Bristol is one of the pricier tracks to go visit as a fan. The lodging prices around the track are insane. Trying to cover that race independently, my wallet cries because it is one of the most expensive tracks to go to on the NASCAR schedule. It's just crazy. And if you're going to the race with a family to pay for the tickets and hotels and things like that, to go for a mediocre product, it's not worth it. But I digress. And to be fair, though I don't like playing the blame game and it looks like there's a lot of heat going towards NASCAR right now, I do commend NASCAR and Goodyear specifically for trying to come up with a short-term band-aid solution to fix the issue, which is the tire. And fixing the tire was at the driver's request. They wanted a softer tire that would help the racing product, that would actually have some fall off. And they've been successful in doing that. Now, we haven't seen that same success necessarily at our concrete tracks, but overall, we have seen a bit of a better racing product due to a softer tire, and that goes to Goodyear and NASCAR working really hard, having these guys test tires like we did earlier this year at Charlotte to figure out how we can improve the tire we have. But again, I reiterate, it's a Band-Aid to the problem that's a bit more costly. So we talked about the issues with the Gen 7 car, what are potential solutions, what aren't potential solutions. The real question is, when are we gonna turn these potential solutions and conversations into action? And according to NASCAR's Elton Sawyer today on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, he said, quote, we will continue to look at our short track package. We're not going to sleep on this. We're gonna go to work and we'll continue to work with the industry to see what adjustments and changes that need to be made. Also, again, reiterating the work that NASCAR and Goodyear is doing to help the product with the tires. Now, according to Denny Hamlin, he said, quote, there's nothing on the horizon. There's been no discussion to fixing things that really need to be addressed on it, and that being the Gen 7 car. So NASCAR says they're continuing to work to find solutions. They're not going to sleep on the issue. Denny Hamlin says he hasn't heard anything regarding changes to the Gen 7 car. So we will see going forward what happens, what changes will be made. Of course, we will make you aware of all of that right here on Above the Lines. So hopefully everyone can kind of get together real soon and fix what we're seeing, because again, it is not sustainable. With all that said, what did you think about what we discussed in the video? And are there some solutions with this Gen 7 car that you see that we didn't talk about? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, make sure to subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and of course, make sure to go to abovetheline.com to learn more about us, our content, and all the things we cover in the world of motorsports, from NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula 1, sim racing, short track racing, NHRA, and so much more. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.